Welcome to the channel, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Eonan's Edge today. Today I'm bringing you a head-to-head review of the Harnds Knight versus the Kershaw Volt II. The Harnds Knight is a $13 knife that's shipped right to your door in most cases, compared to the Kershaw, which is obviously a little more established and well-known counterpart. I believe these knives might even come out of the same factory. So I thought it would be interesting just to order the Harnds, put it to a little bit of use as I've done, and then give my thoughts on a knife that basically sells for under 15 bucks. So basic specs on the Harnds Knight, you're looking at a knife that has a 8CR 14 MOV blade. You can see that right there. The Kershaw uses an 8CR 13 MOV blade. So all that really means is there's a little bit better corrosion resistance on the Harnds blade with this type of steel than there would be with the steel that's in the Kershaw. But honestly, it's negligible. The 8CR 13, 8CR 14, they're both a budget knife steel that's known to be pretty corrosion resistant and offer good performance. Some other basic specs about the knives: the Kershaw, the Volt, which is one of my favorite tiny pocket carry knives in the budget category, uses Kershaw's Speed Safe, so assisted opening with a torsion bar that's under the handle. I didn't take this knife apart, but I've seen a review elsewhere on the internet where they took this knife apart and the handle has the same cutouts for the Speed Safe, although this knife, the Harnds, is not an assisted knife. So this is a manual opening and closing knife. They both use liner lock, but this knife has to be opened manually via a thumb stud, and then it locks up. So Speed Safe assist, manual assist with thumb stud, both liner locks. They both have good lockup. The lockup is better on the Kershaw. This knife has been used a lot more by me. That might be why there's a little bit more lockup there than there is on the Harnds. But I think with a little bit more wear time, this will probably seat itself in pretty nicely. But it's pretty good. It locks up. It locks up pretty well. They both use steel frames. Obviously, the scales or grips on these knives are exactly identical. There is really absolutely no difference. Again, why I said these knives might come out of the same factory. They use the same pocket clip. It is the same shape. The cutout on it is a little bit different than it is on the Kershaw. And obviously they're using screws on both sides of the knife instead of the thrust washers tapered. But I mean, gosh, they're so similar. I do like this little design of the blade up here on the back of the Kershaw a little nicer. They did put some jimping here on the Harnds. It does work pretty well. It does have a little kick up, but it's not quite as positive of a thumb engagement. Again, it's a cheaper knife. It's less expensive. A lot of the hardware is the same. The Harnds blade does appear to be, I put a flat edge against it. It does appear to be a hollow grind, where the Kershaw looks to be pretty much a flat grind here. They do make the Volt, by the way, in a non-serrated version, a version without the serrations on it, a regular full fine edge like the Harnds. The blade profiles, like I said, they're pretty similar. The Harnds is a little thicker. There's just a tiny bit more thickness to this blade. I would say fit and finish, though, I will point out something goes to the Kershaw. The Harnds, if you look at the edges of the frame, they're not really finished off. They just very minimally took the sharp edges off these. So they definitely look a little bit more rough. And I don't know if that's the right word, but they're definitely not There you go. You can see that these edges are a little sharper, whereas if you look at the Kershaw, not only did they add this nice ribbing in the back as part of the back spacer, but the edges are just, they just took the time to just take the sharp edge off of the knife right there. And that's especially noticeable here on the inside of the knife where you actually grab it. You can, even though they have the same grips, you can feel that this is, everything in here is a little sharper. And I guess that's to be expected. You're not going to put as much machining time or finishing time into a $13 knife as you would to a knife that's around 28 to 30 bucks. But again, ergonomically, the knife is good. I have cut and sliced a good bit with this knife. It works pretty well. I'm not unhappy with any of that. So if I were to put out one thing that I think overall is probably not a good idea on these knives, it's the fact that the Harnds uses the Delrin plastic spacers. You can kind of see them in here for the pivots. Instead of using a bronze pivot like they use here on the Kershaw Volt II, they use these Delrin washers. And obviously that's a cost-saving measure. It costs more for the bronze. The bronze is going to last longer. I have broken Delrin washers on a Gerber knife before that didn't have the same frame design as the Harnds Knight does. However, that wouldn't necessarily stop me from buying a knife that costs $13. It's just you have to understand that over the time those washers can wear down a little faster than a bronze washer will, and they could possibly crack. Like I said, I had that happen on a Gerber knife. Overall, though, if you're looking for an inexpensive budget price knife, $13, it's a great size. Again, I reviewed the Bolt before in a bigger review. You can get a good purchase on this knife. You can get your whole hand on it, as you can see. It's got some jimping there. The scaling on the handle is great. Obviously, like I said, it's exactly the same as the Kershaw. And generally, it's a pretty solid knife, a decent steel, and you cannot beat the price. Again, it would be great for throwing in a fishing tackle box or as an inexpensive gift, or like I said, if you just really only have, 13, 15 bucks, whatever, spend for a knife, this would still be a solid choice. I've never seen one of these in a store yet. Someone can comment and tell me if they have actually seen these for sale somewhere other than online. But obviously the Kershaws are available in lots of places all over the place. I'd still prefer the Volt II at just under 30 bucks. You can get it in this serrated edge and full fine edge. It has the speed safe is nice. I like the ergonomics up here, the top of the blade a little bit better. But again, gosh, how can you really say too much bad about a knife that costs $13? If your budget's tight and dictates an inexpensive knife, the Harnds Knight fits that need nicely. And I think that they probably do come out of the same factory. So that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and stay sharp, folks.